Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Are you trying to achieve levels of mastery? And have you hit what we call the unknown unknowns, where you start facing challenges and you are trying to get to the known optimism, right? Um, if you're trying to achieve levels of mastery, maybe you're hitting a wall, or maybe you are thinking that it's taking longer than it should, then there's a good chance you're on the right path. And I want to share that with you because some of my insights that I've learned and some of the insights that I'm still learning as I'm going through this phase of achieving mastery, again, with the intention of continuously being a student. I want to share some insights with you recently that I feel, if you're currently listening to this, whether in your Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, you're probably experiencing some highs and some lows, which is completely okay and sometimes often not talked about, right? So achieving levels of mastery. I recently started reread. Sometimes I go through these phases of rereading these books that have had an impact on me. I recently picked up The Compound Effect again because it's a season of life where I'm stacking on experiments and I want to see results, but I'm very aware that there's a process behind the scenes that needs to happen. And if you're anything like me, I believe that you have to, build a solid foundation, and you have to layer and stack multiple experiments for the entire conclusion and objective and goal to actually happen. But along the way, there's going to be some obstacles, and there's going to be some level of um, fluidity that you're going to need along the way, because while you have the compass set for a specific direction, there's going to be some roadblocks, there's going to be some construction, there's going to be rerouting, there's going to be some unknowns that you didn't even factor in when you join the challenge or took on the opportunity. That, again, this isn't for the faint. If you don't have a strong reason as to why you're doing it, and willpower, usually it's often when people try to look for another strategy, another option. And I'm here to encourage you to stay on the path, because the breakthrough in the hockey stick event is only one experiment away, as you know. So I want to cover over some of the nuances, right? So when we think of, first, what I believe in is getting an understanding of all the experiments that are out there, right? And this is why I actually started my show. It was to showcase that there's a lot of different alternative ways to get it. Okay. Get it is fill in the blanks: health, wealth, love, happiness, fulfillment, whatever it is that you're looking for. There's a gap that can be filled with respect to where you're trying to go. And most of us, if it's, you know, I started off the show opening up as the real estate experiments, because there were so many different experiments in real estate that works if you do the work, right? Whether it's storage, whether it's multifamily, whether it's fixed flip, whether it's short-term rentals, whether it's boutique hotels, whether it's, flipping notes, like whatever it is that you're doing, it works, right? And I've loved the fact that in the last couple of years I've been able to surround myself with amazing individuals who come from different walks of life. Some are in the tech wealth sector, some other in the, I said tech, I said what else? I mean, you got whole life insurance people who come in here. You've had some entrepreneurs, you got authors, you got you name it, who have come in the lab. And there's some fundamental principles that they've shared that stay principles. They're not opinion, they're principles, because they work. Just like if you jump a building, there is this gravitational pull that will bring you down. That is a fundamental principle, whether you like it or not. And what I do is just try to focus on the common principles that I gather. Now, one thing, having interviewed over 300 plus, investors who together combined have made billions of dollars of wealth and services, and in you name it, income, revenue, profit. There is certainly a common theme that I've seen that I have to continue to remind myself as I'm going through my experiments. One, it's that the stickability factor is so important that I actually want to open up the conversation with this because a lot of us get caught up in, you know, what, is called this optimism that, hey, there's this new venture that I want to try, and we're super excited about it. And I've done a lot of that, right? I've myself started different businesses where there's that excitement in the beginning, which is, and I'm actually going to draw it out on paper because I want to actually borrow this from one of the guys that I watch and respect and follow, author and entrepreneur named Alex Hormozi. He talks about this, and I'm going to share actually my screen, and I'm going to be mindful of those who can't see my screen, of what this looks like and why I think it's important to know. So there's this level of in the beginning that he describes as the unknown optimism, right? And so if you look at my screen, you start off high, and then there is another dip here. And so what I'm going to type it on here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. But what I think is neat is we all have this unknown optimism about a specific opportunity, like, oh, I'm going to get into Airbnb, oh, I'm going to start an e-commerce business, oh, I'm going to get into storage, right? Oh, I'm going to get into multifamily. This sounds amazing. And I think what we need to be careful of is uh I think the hype that needs to come with anything that we see on social media, or at least it's not so much that it's hype. There is truth to it, but behind every result, there's a process, right? So even when we think of, let's say, an influencer, and you see they got 1 million followers, and they're like, making an offer, and you could just see a ton of people are signing up. You're like, wow, must be nice. I want to be an influencer. Um, what I think we lack and what we don't really show is the process behind, um, the amount of effort that it takes to actually do the thing, right? And so I think it's really important that we understand like the amount of the foundation, like learning how to get behind the camera. For example, I have 300 plus episodes. Like my entire college career, I was actually recording YouTube fitness videos. So I got really, I started hone my skill on speaking in front of cameras and being comfortable and recording stuff. And so now I can pretty much record things very quickly without a script and just boom, I know what the idea is and I can get out in front of camera, right? If you look at that, you might be like, oh, wow, it must be nice to just be really good in front of camera. But what you're missing is the amount of hours that went in behind being able to do that, or being able to interview folks now with it doesn't take me as much time, even as prep work, even though now here's levels of mastery that I want to talk about. When you talk about the people who are getting the crazy amount of views or whatever it is, they are prepping an entire like deck of episodes and research and all that. And you might say, well, that was a really good interview, but you're missing the entire process behind it. So that's what we call unknown optimism, right? You want to start an e-commerce business. I started an e-commerce business. One thing they don't tell you about is the fulfillment. One thing they don't tell you about is the customer support. One thing they don't tell you about is like when something doesn't deliver on time, what you actually deal with the customer, chargebacks, refunds, fulfillment, support tickets. Like that is all part of what we call the unknown optimism. If you're going to fix and flip, okay, getting financing, getting capital, getting the right, like there's getting the right contractor. Like there's so many unknown optimism that we go into and we're super, super high about it. But then we face the reality of it. So now he describes this, and I would really highly encourage you to go. Alex Hormozi has way more receipts than I do when it comes to results, and he's been a savvy entrepreneur. But I do at least like to borrow principles that are true and use them in my experiments. And what he talks about is the unknown unknowns, which is basically where the work is. This is where the amateurs get separated from like having an idea. This is where the work happens, and this is where at the same time nobody wants to be seen, because when things are not working out and you're telling someone you're trying this new venture but you don't have any results to show, this is where people go back to the new venture and say, you know what, I'm going to do this instead. And then they're super high, and then they get low again because they realize that for every venture, for every opportunity, for every strategy, there is the unknowns. I misspelled that here, so excuse me. Unknown unknowns. I was like, why does this look different? Unknowns. Oh, give me a second. Unknowns unknowns. Right. So the reason, um, the reason this is very interesting, right, is because this is literally where the bulk of the work needs to be done. And this is where we also lose faith in doing the work, right? And then if we stick around long enough, we build the skill set and we invest in ourselves and we actually get a mentor, and we might be here for months, we might be here for years, until we then get to here, which is the known positive optimism. So if you're listening to this, what I'm showing is there's you start off high, right? The unknown optimism. Um, and then there's so you start off high. You want to start with an opportunity that you're aware of, right? And then you actually start to understand that, oh, there's a whole process. Like, I'm going to buy a home, I got to get pre-approved. Oh, wow, now that I'm getting pre-approved, they ask for all these documents that I don't even have, or they're actually telling me that my debt to income is too high and it might not happen. And now I don't think you can do real estate. Or you do the work and then you end up finding out, oh, there's actually other creative ways to get financing. Oh, there's subject to. Now you might have to learn subject to for another 1 year. Or you might do portfolio lending, or you might use some private money, or you might have to drive for dollars, and this could take a year. This could take 2 years. This could take 3 years. This could take 3 months. And depending on your level of expectation going into it, your threshold of being able to do work, being kicked in the face and not getting any results, right? That's going to help you define having done a known optimism, especially when you then get the result to then be able to continue to go. And then even then there's the compound effect where maybe we haven't hit your hockey stick growth event yet, which the hockey stick event usually can take, like, it could very well take half a decade to get there, where people are then celebrating their wins, but you might just be here, right? And then a little bit of progress and a little bit of progress and a little bit of progress, and then and then, but guess what, you might lose too, right? And you might dip down too, and maybe it's a up and down and where it gets tough, and then you finally hit the hockey stick event, which is a compound effect of all that you've been doing, right? But few people actually stick around long enough to get to that hockey stick event, right? Where you literally, it's upward trajectory from here. Like, you just completely, 10x'd, but there's a compound effect behind it, right? And so, reason I share this is because you might be in a journey right now where you're just, hey man, like, I don't even know if this is the right thing. I've been at this thing for a while and I'm still, and I think this is where community, this is where masterminds, this is where mentorship, where you need someone on the path who's saying, hey, you're on the right path, keep doing this, or change this, don't do that. And this is what I wanted to talk about. When I think of achieving levels of mastery, there's so many layers of experiments where I was just on a mastermind call with a good friend of mine, and she was just saying how, hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And this is all like things that, wow, okay, great. I haven't done all these things yet, but there's also all these things that I still need to do, that I'm doing, that are all part of the experiment. So just for context, right? Because I like to give some concrete context, right? It might be, hey, you want to get into Airbnb. Okay. Experiment Nation, you've heard me talk about how multiple investors across the nation are landing these lucrative midterm rental insurance contracts by making these small tweaks on the branding and marketing side. Especially if you're an existing short-term rental operator, there is a quick
an easy shift that you can make with the right guide in place. And because we've launched a 2-day boot camp that not everyone could attend in real time, I've put together a recording where you can get all the materials and all the guides to focus on rebranding either your short-term rental business or your current midterm rental business, so that you can actually have the insurance companies reach out to you. And then day two is if you want to actually play offense, how you can reach out to them by listing on the right platforms, etc. If you're looking to get this MTR bootcamp so that you can start optimizing and you can start receiving these lucrative contracts that again provide less headaches, less turnovers, unlike the Airbnb space, you can start receiving inquiries today by having the right guide in place. So please go to experimentrealestate.com/MTR bootcamp or click the link in the bio to make sure you get your hands on this midterm rental insurance bootcamp to fast track your way into landing these lucrative insurance contracts the exact same ways multiple investors have taken advantage of this unknown and untapped niche within the midterm rental umbrella.
So you get into Airbnb, and now all of a sudden, you realize that, hey, actually, it's there's a lot of um, I actually don't even know how I'm gonna furnish this thing. How do I even furnish this thing? And then so you get then you get an interior designer, or even first it's buying the right type of Airbnb, right? Like then it's like, oh wait, I gotta learn how to analyze, right? So I gotta analyze the right deal to buy. Then I gotta find myself a right realtor, because if a realtor just gives me a deal and I think that's gonna be the right deal, then there's many people who, by the way, buy the wrong deal. It's not cash flowing as much as it's supposed to because they didn't do the analysis, and then they're like, this doesn't work, let me pick something else, right? That's a very concrete example. Or they learn from the first one, then they actually learn how to analyze. Maybe they buy a course to learn how to analyze, they join a mastermind to learn how to analyze a good deal, and that's one part of multiple elements that need to happen. Then they get a designer, but then they get burned by the designer who basically does a half-assed job, and they don't get the result that they want, or the project is delayed by 3 months and they thought they were going to launch next month. Then they fire it. There's a sunk cost loss there. Fire the designer. Then they get a new designer. The designer does a good job. And then maybe now you launch the Airbnb, but maybe it's in slow season. And maybe if you did know that it was in slow season, you would know that that's as expected, but you had unknown optimism and you didn't know. And now you're finding out that because you join another mastermind, which costs you another $10,000, you then find out in that mastermind that, by the way, you're in slow season. And by the way, you've been operating without a dynamic pricing tool, which completely can help you in how you actually can rank uh, against other homeowners who are actually savvy in the space. So then that year is gone because you actually missed the peak of the business. So you got to wait another year. So now you actually don't get your result. Now everyone's looking at you like, oh yeah, this Airbnb thing isn't really working out for you, huh? You should try actually this fix and flip thing that I'm doing. You should try wholesaling. You should try multifamily. So now if you don't stick through the process, you've probably lost a year and a half with a lot of funds that maybe didn't show up yet for you, or you didn't get a return on your investment. Now you can think that those are the unknowns that you didn't know of, and you can actually quit, which most people do, or say that it didn't work for them, or I tried it and lost a lot of money. And then you have a friend who says, oh yeah, I tried it too and I lost a lot of money, but it was the blind leading the blind. So now both of you think that it doesn't work, or you have the one person that it worked out for me, but then you're like, but it didn't work out for me, or you just didn't have the right information. And because you didn't have the right information, now you quit. Now you're tackling on something else that we're going to have unknown optimism. And that thing also has its highs and lows. It also has its layers of education and knowledge that you need to know. The timing matters, the type of asset matters. So you can kind of see already that in that example alone that happens. Now let's say things do go right, and now you made the money back from last year because you learned from last year. So now it's taking you 2 years to get the result that you want. But then what they don't talk about is how on point you need to be customer service. You're getting some people who are sending you pictures saying, I want a refund. And then you're like, I don't think I like this. I don't think I even want to do this. But then you realize it's all part of the process, that if you talk to enough savvy people who have been in short-term rentals for a long time, they'll tell you that's completely normal. They'll start sharing stories of like, oh, by the way, I can't believe this guest did that. And then it'll be normalized. And now that's kind of the known positive optimism that you can have, that, oh, by the way, like this is normal. But then what happens is your listing gets shut down, and then you realize, okay, this is not fun at all. And or a cleaner quits on you, or a cleaner does a bad job, then now your guests are upset. Now you have to either make a decision to fire the cleaner. If you don't fire the cleaner, you continue to get bad reviews, drives your revenue down, you're no longer a super host, and then you start realizing that maybe this isn't for me. Or you then join another mastermind that teaches you where to actually find good cleaners, right? That mastermind has a cost to it. So now you feel like you're in the red because you keep on spending to learn these mistakes and you don't feel like you're making traction. But then you end up getting a good cleaner, and now you're in year 3. And then after you have a good cleaner and now a good dynamic pricing tool, then you actually start seeing that this thing actually works. You're still dealing with some returns here and there, but then you realize that there's ways that you can actually avoid having people cancel on you, etc., when they don't like something is right, because you learn that there's a specific, you can speak to them. You actually ended up learning that in the second mastermind that you joined, or because you were listening to all these podcasts and you got some insight. And then from then on, you start realizing that now your business is actually generating cash, but now you're in year 4. And then you actually end up finding out, and you didn't know about this, but you discover this thing called appreciation, and then the asset actually has appreciated. So now what that means is you actually didn't know that you could actually do several things, like a home equity line of credit, a cash out refinance, which means you could take out some of the equity that has grown over time during the 4 years where it looked like you actually were in the negative. So then when you do a cash out refinance, actually you end up finding out that first, when you do the cash out refinance, it doesn't work with the first lender. But then the first lender, you might say, hey, this isn't for me, it didn't work out. Why didn't it work out? Oh, because your numbers were negative. But then you go to another, you join another mastermind, or maybe you don't, or maybe you just do a lot of research and then you find out, oh, by the way, yeah, I can actually work with a portfolio lender. Portfolio lenders don't report to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Therefore, this is going to have more, lenient terms. Now, someone might stop there and quit and say, you know what, this is too hard. I can't believe in 4 years this is what I'm doing now. Try to refinance, and I think I have a way out, and it doesn't work out because this one lender tells me that it's not going to work out. When in fact, all you have to do is talk to another 10 lenders, and out of those 10 lenders, 3 would actually be able to lend to you, so you actually can get to your end goal. Some would have just quit. Some would have quit with the cleaner. Some would have quit when they didn't get results. Some would have quit and not spent more money than they needed to in order to actually get the results that they want. Or in year 5, because it takes you another 30 days to do a refinance. It was around December, things got quiet. Now you're in year 5, and then you do a cash out refinance, and now you have a huge cash injection. And there's 2 things you can do. There's that friend that's telling you about, oh man, there's this other opportunity they should really tackle on right now. It's this crypto. I'm telling you right now, you take that money that you made, you put it in here, and it will work. Now you might do that, or you might say, no, I have no known positive optimism. I did it the first time. It took me 4 years to get my first property actually cash flowing. I actually just pulled out $150,000, and now I have the opportunity to buy another one. And because I've done the work, because now I have the lenders, because now I have the cleaning, etc., now I'm doing this thing called the compound effect, because all the 5 years of work is now compounding into this next one. So then you buy your property, and after going through the hurdle of the lender harassing you and asking for all these documents that is making it look like you're actually not going to go through with this deal. But then you do a cash out refinance, then you actually buy the second deal. That second deal has less friction. That second deal helps you then cash flow even more. And then what happens is now you're able to actually, because of your results, someone wants to partner with you, and now you don't have to put any money down, and you want to do co-hosting. So then you get your third property, and then after your third property, now you start to have enough cash flow that you can actually, oh, guess what, you start to educate yourself with creative financing. You got a bought a sub 2 deal, then you have a fourth property. Now next thing you know, you're in year 8, and something interesting happens where not only have you gotten very savvy, but then some kind of deal comes in that's, a larger deal, or a property that's cash flowing a lot, where you pull all your money, you pull into it, you're able to buy that property, and next thing you know, you get your hockey stick event. Now you get to the number that you wanted, and now you're actually generating, let's say it's 50K a month, which is the number that you needed to walk away from the job. And now you have all the time freedom, fulfillment, etc., and you build a team. Now you have enough money to hire someone to actually do all the dynamic pricing, hire and manage the cleaners, etc. And now you're no longer working in your business, you're working on your business. And now someone who looks at you sees that, and they say, wow, I want to get into Airbnb. But what they miss is the 8 years of work that it took to get there. And maybe it's faster, maybe it's longer, but it still took work. And there was a lot of battles tested. There was a lot of U-turns. There was a lot of reroutes. There was a lot of faith. There was an entire process required behind getting the result. Now, if that person quits along multiple ways, when they don't get the financing, when the lender doesn't approve the cash out refi, when the cleaners quit on them and did a bad job, when the second financing didn't work, they are all starting in a new, again, avenue with unknown optimism, and we'll have to go through that entire cycle that we just talked about in a new domain. And guess what? Every domain has its challenges. Speaking from experience, whether you're building an e-commerce business, whether you're trying to build a YouTube channel, whether you're trying to build an agency, which I've had, whether you're trying to build in a short-term rental empire or a temporary housing empire, there is two options. Either you can build on the previous skills and do a pivot along the way where, hey, by the way, there's this thing called midterm rentals where when you do have an established short-term rental business, you can actually now do midterm rental leases. And by the way, you can also work with insurance companies and generate more revenue with less turnover. It's easier on your cleaners and you get more profits. Oh, by the way, you can actually still use this model in co-hosting, which will help grow your business so you don't have to put as much money down. Oh, by the way, these are all skills that stack on top of the ones that you learn, on top of the compound effect that you build. These are ways that you can actually, along the way, as you learn new knowledge on how to acquire, learn new knowledge on how to liquidate or do portfolio lending and private money, etc. They're stacking in the right direction. You also have to give flexibility in the goal, give the goal the flexibility that it needs, but it's still headed in the same direction and same path. It is not quitting and starting something new from scratch. Now, one must say, if you do that, there are some skills that you learned from the previous experiment if you've gone deep enough. But if you just stay in the area where you're just staying at high level and every time it gets a little bit hard, then you tackle the new thing. And then it gets a little hard, then you tackle the new thing. You don't ever let the compound effect happen. You don't ever know what the unknown unknowns are. You don't ever get to a point where the known positive optimism is, and you don't ever get a chance to truly reap the benefits of all the hard work that you've put in. And that is where there's a fundamental disconnect between the haves and the have nots, right? The ones who see the ones achieve it often fail to see the process behind what it took to get there. And if you want to achieve any level of mastery, there's going to be so many nuances and challenges that are either industry known or that pertain to your specific situation, and you're going to have to overcome it. When you overcome it, that's what we call wisdom and insight. And if you want to acquire more wisdom, if you want to shorten that time, there's going to be some investments to make along the way. That is why people often say, successful people say, investing yourself is the best thing you can do, because if you lost it all today, you would still have the knowledge and skill set to be able to start from scratch, but you really are not starting from scratch because you're starting with all the skill sets that you learn and the experience. That is why an extremely successful person can lose it all and make it back tomorrow again, because they went through the process. It's not microwavable results. Anything that can be done fast can be lost very quickly. And so it's such a good reminder to keep that in mind, that you want to stay the course. You want to work through the unknown unknowns. You want to have the known positive optimism. And once you get there, you stick with the process long enough, get the mentors along the way to guide you, get the help that you need, hire the consultant, hire the coach to then help you streamline that process, because there is no shortcut to success, but there is, of course, a way that you can gain the information, not have to go through it yourself, by learning from others who have been in the position or at least headed in the direction that you're headed towards. It's not going to be exactly the same. You're not going to take the exact same road, because roads change, roads close, bridges close, right? New ones are built, new highways are built every day, right? But you have the right compass and they can help you get there. Staying the course is super key. And one thing I want to say is, achieving level of mastery, from what I'm learning right now, is there is a fundamental gap and difference in understanding between being number one and number two. And when I think of that, I think of the Olympic athlete of that get the gold medal versus the one that gets silver and bronze, it's sometimes a millisecond away from the other person, and that makes all the difference. So what are those other levels of milliseconds of small nuance activities and level of detail that you need to pay attention to in your business to then be able to get the gold versus the silver and a bronze? Because there is a fundamental big gap. It might be super nuanced, drinking extra water, getting extra stretches in, doing extra analysis on the property, how often you look at them, what you listen to, who you're surrounded by, the opportunities that come your way, how you create luck. All these things are, again, different. But the good thing is, I believe in entrepreneurship, you don't have to get the gold to get all your desires and fulfillment. You can strive for it. But the thing is, in business, being in the top percentile is definitely takes a lot of work, but it's a zero sum game where there's an opportunities for many of us to get the thing that we want without taking away from the other. The thing is, as an Olympian, if you get the gold, it means that someone else can't have it. I believe in business that you can have the same goal that someone else has if you just steer your compass in that direction and do the things that's required to achieve the levels of mastery. So I'm leaving you with this. If you haven't achieved your levels of mastery, or if you're in a work in development like myself, you want to make sure you have the right mental syntax and borrow the physiology and the strategy that your mentors are using, that people that have the thing that you have already have achieved. You want to make sure that you're doing the thing, and you want to make sure you're sticking through the process so that you can then get your hockey stick event, and it will come there. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. If you stick around long enough, make the right adjustments, and stay the course. With that said, Experiment Nation, I leave you with this. All you have to do is keep going, make the right adjustments, and steer your compass in the right direction. And it will work if you're willing to do the work. My job is done. Yours has just begun. I'm sending you abundance in all your accomplishments and dreams. Make sure that you stick with it and achieve your level of mastery. Everybody else can truly benefit from it, because it's not about you. It's about who loses if you don't win. Let's get after it, y'all. Let's build. Experimentation. I believe there are two critical components that will help you achieve your goals very quickly and succeed. Number one, it's information like this that you've received on a show, in an episode, and content that you can find on my YouTube channel or anybody's channel. And then there's a community. And the way we've been able to expedite our process, the way people in our community, people that we consult, mastermind members, whoever, they get the information on an episode like this, but then they also have the support, whether it's me guiding them or being guided through a community. There is an opportunity for you listening to be able to expedite your process, or even expedite your results that you're seeking by being part of the community. If that is what you're interested in, we at Experiment Nation happen to have a community devoted to helping maximize your occupancy and your profitability altogether, regardless of which market that you are in. And for that reason, you have an opportunity where you can go to experimentrealestate.com/submit if you're looking to work in an environment that can help you prosper faster. Call out any areas that you might not be familiar in, especially the blind spots. That's where a guide comes in hand, and I would be a pleasure and honored to be your guide. But in order to make sure you're a good fit, make sure you go to experimentrealestate.com/submit so that my team can go ahead and take it and see if you're a good fit to join the mastermind and the multiple programs that we have. In addition to that, I'm also now a YouTube partner, which means that I want to give you more access to information, more access to Q&As, more access to the questions that actually come out of our mastermind that help people expedite the process. We've seen people get anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 to even $7,000 a month net on just one door by applying the strategies that we use by working with corporations and furnished accommodation in a very strategic way. So if you're interested, make sure you also subscribe, because I'm going to have different tiers that's on YouTube now that we've become YouTube partner, to continue to be the bridge to your success
in your lab, and your lab means your life, your goals, or wherever you're trying to head. So make sure you also hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/real estate experiment. We'll be there. You can also look us up at Midterm Rental Insurance Experiment. We will be there. Make sure you hit the subscribe, because that's when you'll know the tiers that are available to you that make sense for you, your marketplace, for your results. Remember, you're only one experiment away. Let's build.